Well, good evening. Thank you for attending this public hearing. My name is Zach Olson. I'm the Ecosystem Resources Program Director for Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Tonight, we'll be presenting updates to the Oyster Certificate of Location program. We'll begin by presenting proposed updates to the Oyster Certificate of Location program, and we'll then take questions to clarify the proposal. We'll also provide information on how to provide public comment outside of this meeting, such as online, email, or by phone. We'll now begin the presentation. We'll start with a short background on the Oyster Certificate of Location program. Certificates of location are currently areas for private on-bottom oyster harvest. They've historically been associated with oyster transplants, where oysters are relocated from restricted waters to open waters for harvest. But modern COLs rely on placing culture materials and then allowing natural oyster settlement and growth. COL holders have sole rights to oysters harvested on their COLs. Currently, COLs only exist in Galveston Bay and are all for commercial harvest. Some statistics on the current COL program are provided on this slide. This map of the central Galveston Bay area shows current locations of all COLs given in white. Again, these are all for commercial harvest. There are several currently established requirements for COLs. They have a 100-acre maximum size, a 15-year rental term, and several siting requirements. In the following slides, we'll present changes that were made to the Parks and Wildlife Code during the 88th Texas Legislature regarding the COL program. These changes allow for the expansion of the program, including for the use of COLs in oyster restoration. We'll then present proposed changes to the Texas Administrative Code that 1. Mirror changes to Parks and Wildlife Code, 2. Allow for the administration of new authorities granted by Parks and Wildlife Code, and 3. Modernize several aspects of the current COL program. This slide provides an overview of the changes to the Parks and Wildlife Code, Chapter 76, made during the 88th Texas Legislature. We'll talk about each of these points in more detail. The first change to Parks and Wildlife Code, Chapter 76, was to the definition of the natural oyster bed. Previously, this definition was based solely on the presence of a certain number of live oysters. The updated definition instead defines a natural oyster bed based on the predominance of oyster shell or live oysters in the substrate. This definition more closely aligns with the ecological definition of an oyster reef. The next change to Parks and Wildlife Code, Chapter 76, allows for the siting of COLs on degraded oyster reefs. Several specifications are given to be considered when determining whether a reef is degraded. This change, in addition to the previous natural oyster bed definition change, will allow for areas that are suitable for oyster restoration to be included in COL siting. The next change to Parks and Wildlife Code, Chapter 76, removes the consideration of depuration from the process of COL renewal. This is important since restoration COLs would not require oyster transplanting or depuration, and as previously stated, current COLs do not typically rely on transplanting and depuration of oysters. The final change to Parks and Wildlife Code, Chapter 76, established broad authority for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission to establish a program to issue COLs for restoration of natural oyster beds. This includes several aspects, including the authority to establish fees, application requirements, lease terms, and renewal requirements, and siting and marking requirements. The changes I just presented cover the changes already made by the Texas Legislature. We will now discuss the proposed changes to Texas Administrative Code regarding the Certificate of Location program. These are the changes on which you can provide public comment and that will go in front of the Commission later this month. The proposed changes update the existing rules surrounding COLs to better match the changes in Parks and Wildlife Code and give the department the new ability to permit COLs for restoration purposes. The first proposed changes simply mirror changes to Parks and Wildlife Code where necessary. This includes adopting changes to the natural oyster bed definition, degraded reef language for siting, and removal of depuration requirements to COL renewal that were previously discussed. The next proposed changes to Texas Administrative Code are changes necessary for the administration of new authorities given in Parks and Wildlife Code. Here, this includes adding language to differentiate COLs for harvest and COLs for restoration purposes, which would require a COL applicant to designate the purpose of a COL during the application process. These proposed changes would also specify that no oyster harvest may occur from COLs for restoration. We also propose several specifications for restoration COLs, including 1, an application renewal fee of $200, 2, that restoration COL rental fees be waived, 3, a location term of 15 years, 4, a maximum acreage of 100 acres per site, and 5, a similar siting and application process for both COLs for harvest and restoration. Additionally, we propose the requirement of a COLCH placement plan for all newly established COLs and minimum use criteria for restoration COLs. The proposed minimum use criteria would essentially be that a certain percentage of the COLCH placement plan must be completed by specified times during the location rental period. We also propose to modify the Texas Administrative Code language associated with public hearings, essentially striving to include a broader array of public comments and concerns in the stated purpose of the hearing. The last proposed changes to Texas Administrative Code are several proposed modernizations to the current COL program. These are independent of the recent changes to Parks and Wildlife Code. These proposed modernizations include 1, to modernize mapping requirements for COL applications, 2, modify marking requirements during the COL application process, and 3, add several new authorizations for non-harvest activities on COLs that may be performed at the discretion of TPWD staff members. This ends the formal presentation. Before we take questions related to the proposal, I want to highlight several different ways that you may provide public comments regarding the oyster certificate of location proposal. These different ways to give public comment are given on this slide, and I'll leave this slide up during the Q&A session. We'll now take questions using the Q&A chat window. Please keep your questions relevant to the proposal. Do not submit comments through the Q&A chat window, only relevant questions. And we'll now pause for questions. Yeah, the question is this the same presentation that will be presented at the in-person meetings? And the answer to that is yes. We'll be giving this exact presentation both at the Rockport meeting tomorrow and the Texas City meeting on Wednesday. Yeah, the question is, will public comments be taken at the other 2 meetings? Yes, at the other 2 meetings, we'll have the opportunity for live public comment, in addition to providing information for public comments online via email and phone. There's a question about citing House Bill 51 dealer placement as certificates of location. And yeah, House Bill 51 placement of COLCH material would need to be in harvestable areas, and these restoration COLs would not be harvestable. So we would not place House Bill 51 COLCH in a restoration COL. And I'm just going to reshare my screen with the ways to comment here before we log off tonight. And so just wanted to share one more time that ability to, there's various ways that you can comment on our this public hearing: online, email, phone. Public comments can be provided until January 22nd, 2025. The question is, have we decided on what the exact minimum use criteria will be? No, I don't think that that's in TAC specifically. I think it's just that it will be a certain percentage by certain amounts of time. And to note, the minimum use criteria will be specific to the restoration COLs. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to give it back over to you, Holly.
Thanks, Zach. Just a quick reminder before we log off that you will be getting that email from Zoom tomorrow with a link to the comment portal and a link to our YouTube channel where the recording of this webinar is going to be posted. Give us 24 to 48 hours, hopefully, to get this posted. And again, that email or our CFish email address will also be there as well if you would like to provide comment that way. Or if you have any additional questions and want to get in touch with us to ask those questions then. Thank you all again for joining us here this evening. Thank you to all of our panelists for being here and our 2 interpreters as well. We really appreciate you guys. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.